Hi, it's Maya here, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I'm most anticipating for this year. This will be an unscripted, more chatty video. I have a bunch of tabs open with the books that I'm most anticipating, and I will go through them and tell you what the books are about and why I am looking forward to them. I have my coffee, so let's get started. So first I'm going to talk about the 3 most anticipated books on my list for the year, and after that I will go through the rest in the order that they are going to come out in. So first I of course have Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and this is a fantasy release from Kingfisher that is traditionally published, because previously her horror books have been traditionally published and her fantasy and fairy tale books have been self-published. Nettle and Bone tells about this girl called Mara, who is convent-raised, a third-born daughter, and she sets out to save her sisters from this abusive prince with the help of a powerful grave witch. Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. And I'm looking forward to this because it's been a while since Kingfisher or Ursula Vernon has published a more fairy tale type of book. She has been writing horror and then these romance fantasy books in her fantasy world lately, and I really like her fairy tale retellings. This will not be a retelling, but it does sound like more fairy tale-ish fantasy. Then we're jumping all the way to September when Nona the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir will come out. This is the 3rd book in the Locked Tomb series that started with Gideon the Ninth. I have loved the previous 2 books that have come out. I will probably love this one too, but I have no idea what it is about, except that the main character's name is Nona and what the cover looks like, and I don't want to know anymore. I also might have ordered the cover art posters from the artist Tommy Arnold when he put them out for sale when the cover reveal for Nona happened. And then the 3rd book that I'm most anticipating this year is The Unbalancing by Rb Lemberg, which is set in the same Birdverse universe as Four Profound Weaves, a fantasy novella that I really loved. And that is completely separate from this. It's set in the same world, but this follows different characters. And I think this might be a novel, but I'm not completely sure. So the description of this one goes: a group of queer and non-binary magic keepers across an archipelago must come together to save their islands from an environmental catastrophe. And I think the author has said that this has more about deep names and magical geometry that I was really interested in For Profound Weaves. So how the magic works with names. And I am really excited to learn more about that. So now we're moving on to the rest of the books that I'm anticipating this year, starting from the beginning of the year with February. Bitter by Akwaeke Emezi just came out. And this is, I think, one of 2 young adult novels I have on this list. So this is the sequel or prequel actually to Pet, which was this science fiction dystopian young adult book. It had this creature called Pet that came into the world to hunt a monster in this world that's not supposed to have monsters anymore. And this book tells about Bitter, who is the mom of the main character from the 1st book. And it tells her story from her youth, and that is before the monsters were eradicated from the world. So I am interested in that, especially because Bitter is a painter and she has this power with her paintings, and I really like art magic. For March I have a new author to me, that is Sara A. Mueller, who comes out with The Bone Orchard, and this has a lovely gothic sort of cover, and it has court shenanigans, and I love court fantasy. So Charm is a witch and she is alone, the last of a line of conquered necromantic workers, now confined within the yard of regrown bone trees at Orchard House. So Charm is a prisoner and a survivor, but also the Emperor's mistress, and then the Emperor summons her to his deathbed and charges her with choosing which of his awful faithless sons will carry on the empire by discovering which one is responsible for his murder. So a murder mystery in a court, necromancers. Why wouldn't I be interested in this? And I also really like the last line of this description, which is justice for the empire or her own revenge. I also have to mention a comic, a manga. In March, Delicious in Dungeon Volume 10 by Ryoko also comes out. This is a fantasy comedy manga that it's just getting more and more lore and bigger and more interesting as it goes on with these adventurers exploring this dungeon and also cooking some monsters. So that one also comes out in March, but now we're moving on to June with The Grief of Stones by Katherine Addison. So this is a direct sequel for The Witness for the Dead, which I didn't even know was getting a sequel, and I have still not read The Witness for the Dead because it came out just when I really almost stopped reading for a couple of months last year. So because I still haven't read The Witness for the Dead, I can't tell you what this is about because I don't want to spoil myself, but this is set in the same world as the Goblin Emperor. The main character is a witness for the dead, so Kelehar who can speak to the dead. Then in June we are getting A Mirror Mended by Alix Harrow. This is the second in the Fractured Fables series. It's a novella series about fairy tales, and the first book was called A Spindle Splintered, which I liked. I read it last year, and it was a reimagining of Sleeping Beauty. And this one is about Snow White's evil queen, so it reimagines that, and the main character is the same person from the previous novella. I think I gave Spindle Splinter 3.5 stars. I really would have liked to love it, but I just found it fun, I found it okay, and I always want to read more fairy tale stuff, so I will be picking this up. And then in July, we have the first horror book on this list and the second book from T. Kingfisher on this list, and that is What Moves the Dead, which is a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher. And I think it's a novella. I haven't really looked into this. The cover is quite creepy. It's T. Kingfisher. I'll be picking it up. Sorry, I had to pause for a bit to mess with my lighting settings. I hope I didn't mess everything up. Another book that comes out in July is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno-Garcia, and this is a reimagining of The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. I have read a couple of books from H.G. Wells, and this one was the one that I liked the most out of the ones that I have read. Moreno-Garcia is an author that I click with in some books. I really enjoyed The Beautiful Ones and Certain Dark Things, and then some books aren't for me. So this one sounds like it will be my cup of tea. I haven't read Mexican Gothic yet, so I think I'm gonna read it before this one comes out. And then in August, we have a book that sounds so much like my cup of tea, and this is Babel by R.F. Kuang. This has a very long title. I am gonna have to cheat and look. It's Babel, or the Necessity of Violence, an arcane history of the Oxford Translators Revolution. So this is set in 1828. Our main character is Robin Swift, who is orphaned by cholera in Canton, and he's brought to London by this mysterious professor, and there he trains as a translator in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. Do you say Babel in English? We say Babel in Finnish, and I'm gonna continue to say it that way. So in this world, translating is magic and has something to do with silver. It has the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation through enchanted silver bars. And silver working has made the British Empire unparalleled in power. So there's this theme of colonization. Babel's research in foreign languages serves the empire's quest to colonize everything it encounters. And Robin is, of course, a Chinese boy raised in Britain. So he serves Babel, but it means he's betraying his motherland. And there's also, of course, the shadowy society, which is dedicated to sabotaging the silver working. So this book asks, can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? What is Robin willing to sacrifice to bring Babel down? So this translation as magic and everything, this being said in 1828, it all sounds already so captivating, but then it also says that Babel, a thematic response to the secret history, and a tonal response to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which, as you may know, is one of my favorite books. And I really want to see this look into this, or this tonal response to Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is like very about English magic and English people. This book just sounds so fascinating to me. I could talk more about it, but let's move on. So in October, we're getting Into the Riverlands by Nghi, and another gorgeous cover in this novella series, The Singing Hills Cycle. I have read the first book, but I haven't read the second book yet, so of course I'm not gonna look into this. These all have the same main character, the wandering cleric Nghi, who collects stories, but I'm not sure what happens in the second book, and I'm not sure what happens in this one. This fantasy world is very interesting, and I want to know more about the stories revolving around the people of this world. Then on my list is Rose House by Arkady Martin. I haven't read from Martin before. I own Memory of Empire. I think I will like it when I read it, but I have Rose House on my list nevertheless, and this doesn't have a publication month stated. It says only that it comes out this year. So this is a novella in which an archivist must uncover the mystery entombed in her subject's greatest work, Rose House, a building designed to be a great architect's legacy and inhabited by a machine intelligence of his own design, and now by a mysterious corpse. So this sounds a bit like a locked room murder mystery with an AI. I love murder mysteries, I love artificial intelligence. I really want to read this, but I'm not actually sure if I can read this, because this is published, or will be published by Subterranean Press. And they make these gorgeous editions, and the shipping to Finland is so much that I have never bought the Subterranean Press book. And it seems that they only have the ebook rights for US release, so I can't buy the ebook either. So I have no idea if I will be able to read this, but I really want to. So those were the next most anticipated books on my list. And then I have a couple that I'm like a bit on the fence about, because I might have not read from the author before, or I might not know that much about the book, or I just want to wait and see what the people say. But I have five more books to add to this list. And the first of those is The Ogress and the Orphans by Kelly Barnhill, which comes out in March. And this has to be a fantasy about the power of generosity and love, and how a community suffers when they disappear. And this is a middle grade book. So this is set in this town that has faced a lot of calamities lately, like fires and floods. The people put their faith in the mayor, a dazzling fellow who promises he alone can help. After all, he is a famous dragon slayer. At least no one has seen a dragon in his presence. So this town has the orphan house, from where an orphan goes missing, and all the eyes turn to the ogress, who is living at the edge of town. And the mayor really suggests that the ogress must be the reason that the kid has disappeared. So let's all blame the ogress. The orphans know that this cannot be, and that the ogress is like a good person. And it asks, how can the orphans tell the story of the ogress's goodness to people who refuse to listen? Next, I have a literary vampire novel called Woman Eating by Claire Coda, which comes out in April. And the short description says, a young mixed-race vampire must find a way to balance her deep-seated desire to live amongst humans with her incessant hunger in this stunning debut novel. It's about this woman who is always hungry, and she's a vampire and she can only digest blood. And it's also about this artist community. And these like vampires, they can literally look into the hunger in the vampires and then into an artist community. All of this makes me interested. Then next, a bit in the same vein, I have Reluctant Immortals by Gwendolyn Kiste. I actually don't know if it's Kiste or Kiste, but anyway, I know this author, I haven't read from them before. But this one is inspired by the untold stories of forgotten women in classic literature, which is my kind of thing. So the main characters are Lucy Westenra from Dracula and Bertha Mason from Jane Eyre. And they are living together in the 60s in Los Angeles, I think. The description says, combining elements of historical and Gothic fiction with a modern perspective in a tale of love and betrayal and coercion, The Reluctant Immortals is the lyrical and harrowing journey of two women from classic literature as they bravely claim their own destiny in a man's world. Then in October we have Strike the Zither by Joan He, which is a reimagining of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, in which a strategist must help her warlords to victory against the rival kingdoms of the north and the south, while overcoming her fate as written by the gods. This is also young adult. I do have a book, Descendant of the Crane, from Joan He. I haven't read it, but it has like court intrigue. It is also a young adult novel. I haven't read that, but I have that. So maybe if I read that book and enjoy it, I will pick up Strike the Zither. So we have finally reached the end. I have one more. I have The Sun and the Void by Gabriela Romero La Cruz, which comes out sometime this year. It only says 2022. I don't know the month. But this says to be full of twisted family politics, dark magic, and fantastical beings. And it is set in a world inspired by the history and mythology of 1800s South America. So the main character is Reina, who arrives at this manor on the verge of death until her estranged grandmother, a dark sorceress in the Don's employ, intervenes. Indebted to a woman she never knew and smitten with the upper caste daughter of the house, Celeste, Reina will do anything to earn and keep the family's favor. even the bidding of the ancient god who speaks to her from the manor's foundations. So these last months are the ones that I'm not sure about, I haven't really heard that much about, but sound interesting, so I will keep my eye out for them. So that's it, those were my most anticipated books of 2022. It was a long video. If you have watched this far, leave me like a black heart emoji in the comments or something, and if you feel like it, tell me what is your number one most anticipated book of the year. As you know, I have 3 number ones, I couldn't bring the list down, but that's all from me for now, and I'll see you in my next video.